Listen up, Canada. While Mark Carney's been busy perfecting his PowerPoint presentations and practicing his concerned face in the mirror, 1,000 Canadian families just got served the ultimate pink slip courtesy of Algoma Steel. That's right, 1,000 jobs. Gone. Poof. Vanished faster than your tax refund in February. But hey, at least our potential Prime Minister in waiting looks good on camera, right? Brian Lilley just dropped a bomb that nobody in Ottawa wants to talk about, and honestly, I'm here for the chaos. Because while the Liberal leadership race has been more focused on who can say climate change with the most dramatic flair, actual working Canadians are watching their livelihoods disappear. And the question everyone should be asking is this: does Mark Carney, the golden boy of Bay Street, the darling of the Liberal establishment, the man who apparently walks on water according to his supporters, does he actually care enough about these steel workers to pick up a phone and talk to Donald Trump? Or is he too busy counting his Goldman Sachs money and rehearsing his stump speeches? Now before we dive into this steel-plated disaster, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell because Canadian Insights is your go-to source for multiple daily videos covering everything happening in Canadian politics. We don't sugarcoat, we don't play favorites, and we definitely don't wait around for permission to speak the truth. Let's get into it. So here's the situation, and trust me, it's messier than a poutine dropped on a Tim Hortons floor. Algoma Steel in Sault Ste. Marie just announced they're cutting 1,000 jobs. 1,000. That's not a rounding error. That's an entire community getting sucker punched. These aren't just statistics on a spreadsheet. These are real people with mortgages, car payments, kids in hockey, and dreams that just got crushed under the weight of economic reality. And where's Mark Carney? Well, according to Brian Lilley's very pointed questioning, he's apparently too important to engage with the guy who's about to be running the world's largest economy again. Let me paint you a picture. Donald Trump is returning to the White House in January, and has already made it crystal clear that his America First agenda isn't just a catchy slogan, it's a wrecking ball aimed directly at Canadian industries. Steel tariffs? Oh, they're coming. Trade disputes? Already warming up in the bullpen. Economic nationalism? That's Trump's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And while all this is brewing like a Category 5 economic hurricane, Mark Carney's playing hard to get like he's some kind of diplomatic diva who's too cool to pick up the phone. Here's where it gets spicy. Brian Lilley isn't some random conspiracy theorist shouting into the void. He's a seasoned political columnist who's been watching Ottawa's game for decades, and is asking the question that every single one of those 1,000 Algoma Steel workers should be demanding an answer to. If Carney wants to be Prime Minister, if he wants to lead this country, if he wants Canadians to trust him with their economic future, shouldn't he be sprinting toward opportunities to protect Canadian jobs? Shouldn't he be building bridges with Trump, even if it means swallowing some pride and dealing with someone he probably considers beneath his Goldman Sachs pedigree? But no. Apparently, that's beneath him. Apparently, talking to Trump is something Carney would rather avoid like it's a potluck dinner where everyone brings egg salad. And this isn't just about ego or political posturing. This is about strategy, about leadership, about understanding that sometimes you have to work with people you don't like to protect the people who depend on you. Think about this for a second. When you're sitting at the big kids' table of international economics, when you're trying to protect Canadian interests, you don't get to choose who's on the other side of the negotiation. You don't get to say I'm not talking to that guy because he hurt my feelings or because he doesn't share my worldview. You roll up your sleeves, you sit down, and you fight for your country. That's what leadership looks like. That's what actual governance demands. But here's the kicker, and this is where Lilley's criticism really hits home. Mark Carney has spent his entire career in the rarefied air of international banking and central bank governance. He's comfortable with the Davos crowd, with the international monetary elite, with people who speak in carefully calibrated economic jargon over $17 lattes. But talking to Donald Trump? Actually engaging with the populist, nationalist, unpredictable force that is Trump? That requires a different skill set. That requires humility, flexibility, and a willingness to get your hands dirty in the trenches of real-world diplomacy. And let's be brutally honest here. Those 1,000 workers at Algoma Steel don't care about Carney's credentials. They don't care that he ran the Bank of Canada or the Bank of England. They don't care about his international reputation or his fancy resume. What they care about is whether he can protect their jobs, whether he can stand up to Trump, whether he can negotiate deals that keep Canadian steel competitive and Canadian families employed. So far, the answer looks like a giant question mark wrapped in expensive suits and corporate speak. Now, let's zoom out for a second because this isn't just about Mark Carney or even just about Algoma Steel. This is about a pattern we've seen over and over again in Canadian politics. We elevate these technocratic superstars, these credential-laden experts who look perfect on paper, and then we act shocked when they can't connect with regular Canadians or deal with the messy reality of populist politics. Justin Trudeau was supposed to be the charismatic leader who could do no wrong, and look how that's turned out. Now we're being sold Mark Carney as the next savior, the economic genius who'll rescue Canada from whatever crisis is coming next. But here's the thing about economic geniuses. They're really good at managing spreadsheets and forecasting GDP growth and publishing reports that make everyone feel smart. But can they roll up their sleeves and fight in the mud with someone like Trump? Can they protect Canadian workers when the stakes are high and the negotiations get ugly? Can they put aside their pride and their ideology and do whatever it takes to defend Canadian interests? Based on Carney's apparent reluctance to engage with Trump, Lilley's raising serious doubts. And those doubts should matter to every single Canadian who works in manufacturing, in natural resources, in any industry that depends on cross-border trade with the United States. Because if your potential future Prime Minister is too precious to talk to the American president, what does that say about his ability to actually lead in a crisis? Here's another angle that makes this whole situation even more frustrating. Canada is facing an economic perfect storm right now. We've got inflation that's been stubbornly high, housing costs that have completely detached from reality, productivity that's been flat for years, and now we're staring down the barrel of potential American tariffs and trade restrictions. This is not the time for leaders who want to pick and choose which battles they'll fight based on who makes them feel comfortable. This is the time for pragmatic, ruthless, whatever it takes leadership. And yet, what are we getting? A liberal leadership race that feels more like a popularity contest than a serious discussion about Canada's economic future. We're getting candidates who are more worried about their progressive credentials than about protecting Canadian jobs. We're getting Mark Carney, who apparently thinks he can win by looking competent and hoping everyone forgets that competence without courage is just well-dressed cowardice. Those 1,000 Algoma Steel workers deserve better. The millions of Canadians whose jobs depend on trade with the United States deserve better. This country deserves leaders who understand that sometimes diplomacy means sitting across the table from people you don't like and fighting for your national interests anyway. So here's my challenge to Mark Carney, and I hope someone on his team is watching this. Prove Brian Lilley wrong. Show us you're not just another Bay Street elitist who's too important to get your hands dirty. Pick up the phone. Reach out to Trump's team. Start building relationships before you even potentially become Prime Minister. Show Canadian workers that you actually care about their jobs more than you care about maintaining your image as some kind of international statesman who's above the fray. Because right now, from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're more interested in being admired than in being effective. And Canada can't afford that kind of vanity right now. Alright, that's it for this one. But before you go, I need you to subscribe to Canadian Insights if you haven't already. We're dropping multiple videos every single day covering all the chaos, all the drama, all the stories that matter in Canadian politics. Hit that bell notification so you never miss a video. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think. Does Carney need to swallow his pride and talk to Trump, or am I being too hard on him? Let's have that conversation because this is exactly the kind of debate Canada needs right now. Until the next video, stay informed, stay engaged, and never let these politicians think they can ignore the real issues while Canadians lose their jobs.